Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith. And joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Mike McMahon, who is undertaking today's reading as his final duty in uniform, following nearly 46 years of dedicated service in the Australian and British armies. Sir, we thank you for your service. We warmly welcome the family of Pilot Officer Neville Arthur Wilson, whose story will be told shortly. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. For those who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Neville Arthur Wilson. Born in Sydney on the 22nd of February 1915, Neville Wilson was the son of Arthur Edgar Wilson and Elsie May Wilson. Growing up, Neville attended public schools in Rylstone and Gravesend in rural New South Wales, before attending Armidale High School and Sydney Church of England Grammar School, known as the Shaw School. Wilson trained as an accountant and from 1932 worked as an auditor for Priestley and Morris Accountants in Sydney. From 1938 until his enlistment in the Air Force, Wilson served in the militia, as a trooper in the Sydney University Regiment, then as a driver in the 2nd Armoured Regiment. On the 25th of June 1941, Neville married Edith Winsome Chew at a ceremony held at the Shaw Chapel at the school where Neville was once a pupil. In October 1941, Wilson enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force and commenced training at No. 2 Initial Training School at Bradfield Park. Selected to train as a pilot, Wilson then attended No. 8 Elementary Flying School at Narrandera, New South Wales. In May 1942, Wilson embarked in Melbourne for overseas service, crossing the Pacific Ocean in a troopship for Canada, where he continued his training. After arriving in Canada in June 1942, Wilson was assigned to No. 4 Service Flying Training School at Saskatoon in Saskatchewan. On completion of this course, Wilson was awarded his pilot wings. Wilson continued his training and from January 1943 was based at No. 1 General Reconnaissance School at Royal Canadian Air Force Station Summerside at St. Eleanor's on Prince Edward Island. Here, pilots and navigators were trained in techniques required for maritime patrols. Wilson journeyed from Canada's Atlantic coast to the west coast, posted to No. 32 Operational Training Unit, based at Patricia Bay on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. In May 1943, Wilson recrossed Canada's Atlantic coast, stopping at Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he boarded a troop transport to make the sea journey to Britain. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who throughout the course of the war joined British and Commonwealth squadrons based in Britain. Following his arrival in Britain, Wilson was assigned to the Royal Air Force's Coastal Command and undertook further training before being posted to No. 455 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force. As was typical for Australian aircrew in Europe, it had taken Wilson over 2 years from his enlistment in the Air Force through training schools and travel before joining an operational squadron. No. 455 was a maritime strike squadron which undertook patrols across the English Channel and North Sea to intercept and attack German naval vessels and German shipping. The squadron's motto was strike and strike again, and the squadron crest came to include a Viking helmet, as so many of the squadron's patrols took place off the Norwegian coastline. When Wilson joined the squadron in September 1943, it was based in RAF Lucas in Fife, Scotland, and had just been equipped with the twin-engine Bristol Beaufighter aircraft. In April 1944, the squadron moved to RAF Langham in Norfolk. On the 1st of May 1944, Wilson was piloting a Beaufighter on a training flight when he experienced port engine trouble shortly after takeoff from the airfield at Langham. He made for the nearby aerodrome at Little Snoring to attempt an emergency landing. Flying on just one engine, Wilson made a steady and level approach. But just short of the airfield, his Beaufighter dramatically lost height and crashed into a wood. Wilson's navigator, British Flight Sergeant Ted Holmes, fought his way out of the wreckage and tried desperately on 3 occasions to reach and rescue Wilson from the blazing aircraft. But he was not able to do so due to the intense heat which had burned his face and the trees that had fallen across the pilot's canopy. Wilson was killed, aged 29 years old. He was buried in the British and Commonwealth War Graves plot of Cambridge City Cemetery. His epitaph, as chosen by his widow, reads, "He is just away, loved husband of Winky." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is just but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Neville Arthur Wilson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.